Welcome to Jumpstart Your Immunity, a 9-part series on ways to fight off the cold, the flu, and maybe even COVID-19. Let's start off with Nutritional Jumpstart. Can what we eat really boost our immune system? Let's find out the answer with Gigi Novell. Gigi?
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with all of you this evening. So, nutritional jumpstart. Can what we eat really improve our immune system? Well, let's get right to it. Yes, indeed. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And there we go. Okay, so I work at Loma Linda University, and I haven't been on campus since March of last year. So I have to look at a picture of my campus just to remind me of how beautiful it does look. Okay, now let me just close this and move on. I want to start off with this verse, and it is found in Psalm 139:14. And it says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That is so true. God designed us with so many systems. They are complicated, they are complex, they are intricate, but they all work beautifully together to keep us going, to keep us strong, to keep us healthy. And so, I cannot talk about nutrition unless I talk about the gut. So I will give an overview first of the gut, and then I will provide you with some actions that you can take right away to take care of you today. The immune system is one of those systems that God created us with. And see, there are all these elements that make up different parts of the body, different organs that make up the immune system. And 70 to 80% of our immune system is housed in the gut. So we need to spotlight the gut. We need to talk about it first. So you might have heard this phrase, gut microbiota. And what is it? Well, let me tell you. The definition is this: it is actually a community of microorganisms. We actually have 100 trillion microbial cells in there, in our gut. And so if you think you're ever alone, nope, because you are bringing around with you, carrying around with you a community, an ecological community. It contains bacteria, it contains fungi, viruses, it's all there. And just as long as we have more beneficial bacteria than pathogenic bacteria or microorganisms, then we're okay. We can't help it that we have some things that are pathogenic. But again, just as long as we have more good, we're fine. Okay, now, let me tell you a little bit more about the gut microbiota. It does consist of our large intestines and our small intestines. And it regulates and influences the metabolism and physiology of us, the host. It produces vitamins and enzymes that we need to keep all the different processes in our body running. It regulates cell renewal. It regulates the acquisition of nutrients, and it stimulates our immune system while it also controls the proliferation and pathogenic bacteria present in our intestinal tract. Okay, keep that in mind. So here we go. We have the gut, and again, it consists of the large intestine and the small intestines. And if you think about it, it kind of looks like a whole bunch of big franks that are strung together, connected together. All right. So keep this in mind, our gut, and it is lined with many cells. So each of these cells is called an enterocyte. And if you can remember way back when we took biology, we were told about the cell, the nucleus, that there is a nucleus in the cell. We're told about the microvilli, the Golgi apparatus, the mitochondria, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, all those different elements in there. So picture the cell, which is lining our gut, that it's shaped somewhat oblong. It's shaped like kind of a square, but not really, kind of like a rectangle, but not really. But this cell represented by my hand is representing the cell, and they are lining the gut, and they are right all beside each other. And these cells have to be right beside each other tightly. There should not be any space in between these cells. Okay, so when we have more of the good or non-pathogenic or beneficial bacteria in our gut, and that is represented by the blue characters here, then that's a good thing. We need more of the good bacteria and less of the purple guys. Oh, and purple is my favorite color, and is representing the pathogenic bacteria here. But again, the more we have of the non-pathogenic or the beneficial, the better. And that state of having more beneficial or more non-pathogenic bacteria is called eubiosis. That means our bacteria is in balance. And if you see those enterocytes over here, remember I told you they kind of look long, they're like square or rectangulish, they're right beside each other, and they need to have these tight junctions. They should not be permeable, they should not be loose, because over here in this part is the hollow part of the cylinder of the gut, right? The intestines, and many things are going through there. Food, digested and undigested food, medications, toxins, it's going through there, and it needs to get out of our bodies. It needs to go to the next organs, kidneys, and wherever else that will excrete all these end products. So we need to have these tight junctions right there. This is normal. We need to understand normal very clearly before we go into what is abnormal. So I am going to put another picture up of what is normal. So here are those enterocytes, or the other name is epithelial cells. And they're beside each other, and they need to be tight, and it's like gated. Okay, these tight junctions are gated because we don't want anything flowing from the GI tract to escape and go into the bloodstream, where it will be distributed throughout the body, causing inflammation. Okay, so the gut microbiota begins to change right at the beginning of birth. So depending on whether we were vaginally delivered or delivered by C-section, that determines the balance of our gut right then and there. If we were naturally delivered, then we were bathed with a lot of the good bacteria. And if we were delivered through C-section, then we didn't get as much of the good bacteria. However, that's not a death sentence at all, because that can be changed. However, before we know it could be changed, though, the food that was given to us by our mothers or our caretakers can affect the balance of our gut. And the food that we have eaten as we've gotten older, aging, antibiotics that we've taken. And I'm sure all of us have taken antibiotics at one point or another in our lives for infections that we've had, and we couldn't avoid it. And then there are environmental factors that also affect the balance of our gut. Again, the balance of the non-pathogenic bacteria versus the pathogenic bacteria. Okay, so there are two main phyla and of bacteria, Firmicutes, Bacteroidetes, and all these others that are listed. And if there's any imbalance in any of these, that can lead to medical conditions that are uncomfortable or chronic diseases. Hippocrates said this many years ago, and he was so correct. He could not be farther from the truth. All disease begins in the gut. Oh, it certainly does. And so when the balance of our gut becomes imbalanced, when we don't have more good bacteria than our pathogenic bacteria, we go into this state called dysbiosis. So it could be one of three ways. There are then more pathogenic bacteria than good, so that increased. Or there is a reduced number of the good bacteria or the beneficial bacteria. Or there's just a decrease of the beneficial microbes altogether. And sometimes you can have a combination of all three. And so when there is an imbalance, then the word is dysbiosis instead of eubiosis. Remember that healthy state of more good bacteria than pathogenic. So now we have more of the pathogenic bacteria or other microbes that are pathogenic, and this is called dysbiosis. And let's bring on another picture. So here's another one, and in this case, this one, dysbiosis, it does have more of the pathogenic bacteria represented by the purple characters here, and now we have less of the blue, which represents the pathogenic microbes. And when they are present, they allow those tight junctions to not be tight anymore. They become loosened, they become permeable, and that is, not good for us. So here is another picture. Remember this, I was pointing, but I don't think that my cursor was shown, so I apologize. So here is the good intact cells, the epithelial cells or the enterocytes. And see, they're tight, and these junctions are tight, not allowing any of these toxins or undigested food to go through. But when there is more pathogenic microbes than beneficial, then remember, those tight junctions become loose, they become permeable, and it is allowing the antibiotics or the food particles that were not digested and other pathogens to escape through these junctions. And from the gut, it escapes out into the bloodstream, causing more inflammation, chronic inflammation throughout the body. This is very dangerous. This leads to a lot of our medical conditions. And here is another picture just to illustrate that. All of the particles that are toxic, not good for us, they escape through the junctions and they go into the blood. Okay. So these are several factors that will cause dysbiosis. And of course, for some, there will be that element of genes causing, or genetics causing this to happen a little bit more for some than others. But what we put into our bodies nutritionally can really affect that. Antibiotics can really throw off the balance. Stress that is not managed, excessive stress, can also wreak havoc on the lining of our gut as well. And so that's why it's so important to be doing what we can to manage our stress. And what is in our environment can also affect our gut. And not getting adequate sleep, and not getting quality sleep. All this together can cause dysbiosis, leading to leaky gut. That's when those tight junctions become loose. So that leads to leaky gut. And the other name is intestinal permeability. So we are going to look more into this, but the good news is that we don't have to stay in dysbiosis. We don't have to remain with a leaky gut. We can heal it. We can optimize or restore the health of our gut. So I developed an acronym using a lot of the existing principles that we can use today in order to heal our gut or maintain good gut health if we already have that, or to optimize our gut health. And this framework is represented by the word better. We love acronyms, just like we love New Start. So we have another acronym that we can use here. And so I will go over each of the letters. It represents a principle. So B stands for breathe deeply through the stress, and even when you're not stressed. Okay, so when we are taking deep breaths, that will help us decrease our cortisol levels. And cortisol is a stress hormone. And yes, when we wake up in the morning and we're going through the morning hours and we're so productive, we need that to help get us going. But we don't need it at high levels. That should go down by the evening. So when you take a moment to breathe in deeply, very slowly, in through the nose, hold for a count of 2, and then release and exhale longer than what you inhaled. And you do that 3 times in a row. You do it when you wake up. You do it at different times of the day. Then that is putting you in a state of rest and digest. You are decreasing those cortisol levels. You know, stress isn't bad because it also helps us get work done. Could you imagine if we didn't have some stress in our lives? We wouldn't be as productive. We wouldn't meet deadlines. That's fine. But if it's constant and we are constantly in what we call the sympathetic state, where it is fight or flight to get things done, or if there's danger, we got to run away from it. If we are more in that mode throughout the day, that's producing more cortisol. So we need to remember to also get away from our computer screens and just take a break and look around, go outside for several minutes, and that gets us back into parasympathetic state in addition to when we are breathing deeply. So when are times that we could do this? As I mentioned, upon waking up, while you're getting dressed, do another 3 times. Hey, even while you're washing the dishes, why not? While you're in a Zoom meeting or while you're in a Zoom class. What about this? What about before your meals? Before you say grace, before you thank God for your meals, take the time to just take 3 deep, slow breaths before you eat your meal. That already gets you in a really good place of rest and digest. And then you pray for your meal, you thank God for your meal, and stay in that mindful gratefulness while you are enjoying your meal and thinking about how your meal is nourishing your body. All right. So, if you can't do all of your meals throughout the day, why not just start off with 1 or 2 meals? Take that moment to just breathe deeply 3 times before enjoying your meal. Just give it a try. And if you can do it before every meal, the better. Okay, so moving on to enjoy moving it. Yes, that represents exercise, working out. Make sure that what you choose is something that you just love to do. You find so much joy in doing it so that it doesn't seem like a drudgery, like, oh, I have to work out, I have to exercise. But some of us might feel, oh, but sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. You know what? It might be this. Maybe you didn't fuel yourself enough to get moving, to enjoy your workout. Now, some of you might want to work out or train, work out, run, bike, what have you in the morning before going to work, and that's great. But then some of you might have difficulties and you might say, oh, I just have the hardest time getting into it. Well, what about if you wake up in the morning and you drink 2 glasses of warm water? Because during the night as we're sleeping, we are putting ourselves in a state of dehydration. We don't think about getting up in the middle of the night a couple times to drink water to hydrate ourselves. No, we are dedicating that time to sleep. But when we wake up in the morning, we are dehydrated. And if you just say, okay, let's do 2 glasses of warm water, that will bring your hydration status to a better level. And then if you have a small something to eat, then that would be better. Something with a protein source and a good source of good carbohydrates. So an example would be yogurt, like cashew-based yogurt or almond yogurts. Have a few nuts with that. The nuts will give you the protein, and then you'll get the carbohydrates, the good carbohydrates from the yogurt. And then maybe a little bit of banana. So at least a little something before you work out to give you some energy. And maybe you might do that after work. You might want to work out after work and have a little something to give you that boost. Because sometimes you're working and you didn't drink enough, or your energy levels are going down. So it won't hurt to have a little something before lunch or before you have a good workout after work. Now, the thing is, some of you might say, well, in the morning, I just don't feel like eating anything. Again, it doesn't have to be a full meal right then and there, but a little something at least. And let's look at this. Why are you so full at that time? Not necessarily a bad thing, but if you want to be a little bit more hungry when you wake up, then this is what you can do. So eat earlier the night before to make sure that you have eaten early enough to give your stomach enough time to digest and then rest throughout the night. So think about that. Think about when you slept the night or when you ate last before going to bed. It would be really best to stop eating 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed to assure a really good rest. Okay, so in order to make something happen, make something move, you got to invest in it by putting some fuel into you. And studies show that those who work out and exercise on a regular basis can those people have a very good profile of the good bacteria that they have, and they have more of the beneficial bacteria than the pathogenic bacteria. So that affects the balance of our gut, regular exercise. Now, if you overtrain, if you overdo it, if you overexercise, that puts stress on our gut. And yeah, overexercising is not good either, because that will affect gut health negatively. So everything in mindful moderation, even when it comes to moving it. But exercise can also help bring down the stress, and that's a good thing because lower cortisol levels, then our gut is also preserved well, okay? So let's see, let's move on to the first T. Well, here we go. Invest. I was talking about investing. Eat an early dinner, hydrate. We talked about that. Either have a snack or a small meal. Okay, I was getting ahead of myself there. So the first T in better is trust in the Lord. And I put that there. I wanted it to be like in the middle of this acronym, because really the Lord needs to be in the middle of everything that we do. And this next slide was supposed to have the verse of the Bible that I got this from, or I get this from, and I failed to put the Bible verse in. So it is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not in your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. When we let go and let God, that also helps bring our stress levels too. So we need to do all that we can to decrease our stress levels, since that is one of the hugest, if that's a word, sorry, that is the biggest factor that affects our gut health. But when we trust in the Lord and say, Lord, take all my cares away from me, take care of it. You know what? Even our perception of stress goes down immensely. And there are studies that have proven that. The second T is tune out toxins. It is impossible to get rid of all the toxins around us or to keep all the toxins away from us because it's everywhere. It's all around us. It's in the environment. It's in the food that we eat, what we drink. But guess what? Wherever we can, let's go ahead and do that. And we can effectively do this in the areas that we have control over. And it does make a difference. So although we're not going to tune out all toxins, we'll be able to tune it out where we can. These are the general areas to tune out toxins: food, cookware, beauty products, household cleaning products, dental care products. But for now, I am going to address food. Here we go. Food and cookware. So as much as possible, if you are able to, whenever you can, I know it won't be always possible, but opt for your organic food. We want to ditch pesticides as much as we can because those pesticides can affect the lining of our gut. It can cause dysbiosis. So whenever we can, let us do organic produce. And I did locate a systematic review and a meta-analysis showing that organic produce, in compared to conventional produce, actually does contain more nutrients than conventional. Mind you, it was a meta-analysis, and it showed that there were at least, there was at least a 20% increase. And it ranged up to 30 and even at one point up to 60%, but mostly around in the 20% increase of nutrients in organic produce. All right. So what about the containers that our food is in? Because chemicals that are in there can attach to the food that we eat, and then we eat the food which contains the toxins. So think about the containers that our food is in. While it's not a bad thing to every now and then get something from canned food, it's okay just as long as it says BPA free on the can. BPA stands for bisphenol A, which is an endocrine disruptor that could wreak havoc on our bodies. So it's a good thing now that so many food companies are making their canned food products with BPA-free material. So not only canned items, but what about plastic containers? Ooh, they contain BPA also, bisphenol A. But the good news is that there are a lot of plastic products that are also BPA-free, so look out for those. Glassware is best, as much as you can possibly find and acquire and use glassware for containers for our food. Cookware, what are you cooking with? Are you cooking with aluminum? Or are you cooking with copper or ceramic cookware or Teflon? Oh, get rid of those right away, because those are toxic cookware and it gets scratched off the food and it gets mixed with your food and then you ingest it. So if you can switch over your cookware to stainless steel, or I know this is really heavy, cast iron, then you would be really diminishing the amount of toxins that go into your body. Okay, let us move on to the second E, eat well. Now, I am going to give general nutrition guidelines here. If you have multiple or even one or two medical conditions, especially GI specific, GI related, there might be some changes that you might have to make that deviates from the regular recommendations I will make here. And so what's best is to work with a registered dietitian who can individualize your gut healing meal plan for you. Now, let's look at first at probiotics. This is so helpful in making our gut thrive. And what are probiotics? They are actually live microorganisms that impart health benefits to us, the host. They do allow healthy bacteria in the GI tract to flourish, to thrive. It allows for a healthy bacteria in the GI tract to inhibit or destroy toxins by other bacteria. So that's what it does. So what it really does is that it is an antibacterial agent. That is the big benefit that we get from probiotics. They don't actually colonize, but they kill off bacteria that is in our gut. That's why we need them. They clear out infections in the gut. They can help resolve imbalances by killing the bad bacteria and allowing the good bacteria that's there to flourish. And it stimulates the immune system. It enhances the gut's protective mucous membrane, because when that is stimulated to produce mucous membrane, it contains elements in it that is very immune protective for us. It stimulates beta defensins, which is an antibacterial peptide, which can protect us, which helps our immune system, is part of the immune system. And also, probiotics are able to stimulate immunoglobulin A, which is one of the important immunoglobulins for our immune system. So yes, probiotics are so beneficial and so needed. And the foods that contain probiotics are foods that are fermented. So we have here yogurt and kefir, cottage cheese, and buttermilk. Now, I would encourage you to choose the dairy-free versions of yogurt and kefir as much as possible. Dairy is very pro-inflammatory. So if you have that too much, then it will exacerbate the inflammation that's already going on inside our GI tract and in our body. But just to point out, yes, cottage cheese and buttermilk does have it, but I mean, if you have it, just have it once in a while, okay? Kimchi is another great and wonderful and delicious food item that contains probiotics. Fermented tofu, soy sauce, miso, tempeh, fresh sauerkraut. Now, there is a group of people, though, that should not have fermented food items, and it is those with a histamine intolerance, because fermented foods do contain histamine, high amounts of histamine. So for those with a histamine intolerance, it would be a good idea to choose an appropriate probiotic supplement. Now, in order for the probiotics to flourish and do its job, we need prebiotics. Prebiotics are non-digestible oligosaccharide substances that feed the probiotics. And they are resistant to gastric acidity, susceptible to fermentation. and they have the ability to enhance viability of and or activity of the microorganisms in the gut. So they aid the probiotics to thrive in the GI tract, because not all probiotics will survive unless they are present. And we have a few different ones, which are found in many carbohydrate-rich food items. And so prebiotics are found in these carbohydrate food items, and the prebiotics are called fructooligosaccharides, galacto-oligosaccharides, different types of sugars, and then inulin. Okay, they are also they release short chain fatty acids, so it decreases the pH of the colon, which allows the enhanced mineral absorption of calcium, iron, and magnesium, important minerals that we need in our bodies. And it decreases the survival of some pathogenic bacteria as well. So then I know what you're thinking. Well, then what are the food items that contain prebiotics? Here we go. Chicory root, Jerusalem artichokes, and wheat, barley, rye, flax, oatmeal, onions, garlic, leeks, legumes, asparagus, leafy greens, different berries, olive berries, bananas, and honey. Yes, they're all found here, so it's a good idea to be consuming these. But let me point out though, for those who have celiac disease and gluten sensitivities and a wheat allergy, wheat, barley, and rye contain gluten. So it'd be a good idea to not do those. And oatmeal typically also contains gluten. However, there is gluten-free oatmeal. But everything else can be consumed by everyone. So, yes. So what I'm talking about so far, the probiotics and the prebiotics, these, excuse me, are a couple of the tools from a nutrition standpoint that can help with actually switching back the balance of the gut back to eubiosis, from dysbiosis to eubiosis. Excuse me. Now, let's move on. So what else is good for our gut health? It is a good idea to minimize our added sugar intake, because excessive amounts can also affect the gut, the balance of the gut. Also, minimize those refined carbohydrates, as well as the food additives and pesticides. And for those who have celiac disease and gluten sensitivities and wheat sensitivities, it's a good idea to decrease gluten. But it might just be for all of us to decrease it, not necessarily 100% avoid it, because gluten is pro-inflammatory. So it doesn't hurt to cut back on that every now and then, especially if you have a very serious situation in which your gut is in dysbiosis and has leaky gut. And it's a good idea to also minimize any personal triggers like food sensitivities. But we need to put the emphasis on what we can maximize, and it is important to maximize all vegetables, all fruits, all of the beans and legumes that are out there, our navy beans, our white beans, our red beans, our kidney beans, pinto beans, all the different ones that are out there, and lentils, mung beans, peas. Kind of maximize those and enjoy the different varieties. And then we have whole grains here too. And then fermented foods. We need to maximize these. And, you know, I keep pointing at my other screen when I should be pointing over here, but I know you can read it well just fine. This is an exercise you can do at home. You can write down as many different vegetables, fruits, nuts and legumes, fermented foods that you know of. And this is what you could do throughout the week. If you have consumed one of these, like over here, asparagus, cross it off. And then the next day you had shallots, cross it off. Or that day you had parsnips too. And then the next day you had an apple and you had pineapple that day. So every day of the week, cross off as many of the different fruits, vegetables, and all of these other plant-based food sources that are listed on your list. It could look like this. And by the end of the week, at the end of the 7 days, tally up or count how many different fruits and vegetables were you able to eat in 1 week. If you can get close to 30 different plant-based food sources within the week, that would be fantastic. But that might be overwhelming at first. And depending on if you have a GI condition or not, this might not be a good thing to do. If you get gas or bloating, if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, okay, this might not be for you if you are healing from that. But start off. If the first week you do 10 different plant-based food items, that's great. Give yourself a big hand. And then the following week you increased it to 15, and then the following week to 20. If you can get to 30, that would be great. There are studies that have been done that those who can consume close to 30 different plant-based food items throughout each week, they were the ones who had a greater diversity of the different good bacteria in our gut. So you can make it a game with your family members at home, or just do it by yourself. Okay, and it's fun to try something that you haven't tried, or go back to something that you didn't like back in the day and revisit it, and you might realize, oh, I do like it now. So one of the supplements that I do support you taking, in addition to a probiotic supplement, okay, I would say that taking a vitamin D supplement is a very good idea to do. And while I could have listed food items with vitamin D, they don't really contain a lot. And even if they contain a high amount, you would have to consume a lot of it to reach the amount that we need to really rev up our immune system. So it also depends on where we live too. And if you live below or above the 37th degree latitude, then we're not really getting sun directly coming down at us that gives us the vitamin D that our bodies really love. And so we're not getting as much of that. So there's that to consider. And many of us have a gene variation that affects our ability to absorb vitamin D. So we need to keep that in mind also. And many of us work indoors throughout the week, throughout the day. So this is one that can really help our immune system. And I would say start off with 1,000 to 2,000 international units. You could go up to 4,000, even 5. But see, that's when you really need to work with a dietitian, because then some are really deficient and would need a whole lot more, or those with kidney medical conditions would have to be very wary of how much vitamin D they take. That has to be monitored. But you could start off with 1,000 to 2,000 IUs if you are not already, but you could go up a little bit more. And the beauty of vitamin D is that not only does it help boost our immune system, but it is also an anti-inflammatory vitamin, which is actually really a hormone. Okay, so not only, I'll just stay at this slide for now, but when we say eat well, it not only means the food that we eat. Okay, it's not just eating the food, the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the legumes, etc., that type of thing. But it's also what I said, taking the time to breathe deeply before you eat your meal. But it also means to chew your food extremely well. Sometimes we're just so busy and we're not thinking about our meal that we just mindlessly chew only 2 times or 3 times, and then we swallow right away. Think about that. How many times do you really chew your food? God designed our saliva with enzymes to help with digestion. God designed our saliva with amylase and lingual lipase, so that can really help with starting the digestion process as we are chewing. That's why the more we chew, the better, because it gets the digestive process going. So by the time it's getting into our GI tract, it's doing really well. And some people think, oh, I need something for my stomach, digestive enzymes. Well, for some people that is needed. Some people, they realize that their GI conditions like the gas, the bloating sometimes is because they are not chewing their food enough. So think about that. Think about chewing your food and taking that breath before you eat your meal, because that is part of eating well, not just the food that we eat and that we take in. Okay, let's also now look into the last letter of the acronym BETTER, rest regularly. And I love to say, think 7. So when I say this, I mean really try to aim for at least 7 hours of quality sleep or more every night, and then rest every 7th day. Because in the Bible, in Genesis 2, 2 and 3, it says that after he created the world, he rested. And then he rested on the 7th day, and then he blessed it and sanctified that day. God worked in this wonderful system for us to honor him and worship him, but to take care of our bodies. Otherwise, when we keep running ragged, that affects our gut, our immune system. Okay, but back to sleeping. What are the foods that can help us get a good night's rest? Foods that are rich in melatonin, GABA, and magnesium. So here are a few food items that contain melatonin. Dark-skinned grapes, tart cherries, or take some tart cherry juice, a little bit. You don't have to take a lot. Strawberries, tomatoes, peppers, pistachios. Take these particular food items like at dinner, because that will help bring on the melatonin. And then, what about the foods that are rich in gamma amino butyric acid, GABA? Sweet potatoes, soybeans, peas, tomatoes again, chestnuts, different cruciferous vegetables. Oh yes, rotate those, and spinach. And again, if you want to have a good night's rest, put those at dinner. Although I am not saying you shouldn't have them at breakfast and lunch. You can, but make sure they're packed with these food items, the GABA and the melatonin-rich foods at dinner. And magnesium is such a good one. It also helps bring down our stress and it calms us. Well, dark chocolate is rich in magnesium. However, if you have reflux, heartburn, incessant coughs from the reflux, GERD, then yeah, I probably don't want to do that until you actually have healed your gut. But there are other food items that are rich in magnesium, such as avocados. Oh yes, yum. Nuts, lots of nuts, different kinds of nuts. They're all rich in magnesium. Legumes, all your legumes, once again, your different seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, and then your whole grains. Oh yes, eat up on those. But you know, this is a very important practice to do. Here I go again, bringing up dinner. It's a good idea to eat dinner early, because if you eat late at night or eat a bedtime snack and then you go to bed, you haven't given your digestive system a chance to rest. So that can interfere with your sleep quality. Oh, it really can. And it affects the balance of your gut. If you don't get enough sleep, that affects the gut. And just eating late at night just affects the overall balance of the gut. So eat dinner early to assure a good night's rest. But not only is it important to eat dinner early, it is also important to power down all of our computers and our phones, because all that blue light just blocks the melatonin that should be rising in the evening hours, which lead up to our rest. Okay, so in order to have good gut health, in order to also heal our gut, we must live gut better. And these letters stand for breathe deeply through the stress and when you're not stressed. Enjoy moving it, so make sure you fuel accordingly, and enjoy moving it to get your gut balance into eubiosis. We want more good bacteria. Exercise does that, but not overtraining. It actually cancels that. And then our first T is trust in the Lord. Yes, let go and let God to decrease our stress some more. Tune out the toxins where we can with choosing organic, choosing the containers of the food that our food is in and our cookware, and eat well. Eat well is different for everybody because we have different gene variances. We look through different lenses. We have different customs or cultural practices, but there are still common denominators there. And eating well does not only mean eating the food and putting it in our mouth, like the different food choices, but it also means how we eat. How much are we chewing our food, and are we mindfully enjoying it? And R represents rest regularly. Think 7, try to get at least 7 hours of sleep at night or more, and rest every 7th day. So these are my references, and I would like to end with this verse. Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? So we need to keep in mind that God created our bodies and he has made our bodies his temple. So we must take care of it to the best of our abilities. And if we do our best to get gut better, we can live gut healthier as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good. Hey, Gigi. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I've learned so much myself. Um, I just, it's amazing when you review stuff, how much you learn. I really love the part that you just told us about tonight about breathing in and releasing all of that, especially right before we eat. That's something I have not done before. I'm going to start trying to do that at home right now. Does any of you out there, do any of you have any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments right now. We'd love to answer any questions here. Like I said, I'm learning so much. Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Gigi. Does anybody have any questions? We'll stand by for just a little bit to see if anyone has a question at all.
Okay. Yeah, it's been fun to be with everyone tonight.
It has. I'm so blessed to be here, to be a part of this. And yeah, I'm just so blessed tonight. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for putting it together. That was a lot of work.
It still is a lot of work, actually. I'm actually very excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Groovin' Movin'. That's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, so I'm very excited about that. If you do have any further questions, we'll put up in the comments where you can email as well. So we'll get that email in here. So if you do have any further questions, you're also welcome to email there at jsi.ihYP@gmail.com. So you can go ahead and email your further questions there, and we'll send that off to Gigi. She'll be glad to answer questions for you. Thank you all for coming tonight. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night as we explore Groovin' Movin' Jumpstart. We'd love to find out what that's all about. We'd love to see you tomorrow night with Groovin' Movin' Jumpstart. Thank you. God bless. Let's see. What do we have here? Love the acronyms better. Yes, that was something I had not heard of before. That was quite fantastic. I'm learning something. I also love the list you gave us that I'll be screenshotting later.
Okay.
Question: what's the latest one can eat at night? Gigi, do you have an answer for that?
Okay, well, let's see. Determine your bedtime, and I say 3 hours before your bedtime, it would be a good idea to stop your dinner.
To start your dinner right then. Yes, yes.
Some people say 2, but I really think the longer, the better.
Yeah, and I actually totally agree with that. I actually started eating earlier in the day than I used to, and I found that my sleep is way better than it used to be.
Yes.
You know, I don't toss and turn as much. I don't have such, you know, sometimes I used to get actually bad dreams if I ate too late at night. And I used to talk in my sleep. And when I stopped eating so late at night, I stopped having those bad dreams and I stopped talking in my sleep, which was pretty amazing. So,
Yes, that's great. I'm glad it's worked for you. It does work for me too, so I'm a believer in it.
yes, I actually found that out quite a long time ago. And so I've learned now that one of the things we used to do as a kid, we used to actually have popcorn every Saturday night. And that was kind of late. And I would do that, and I would have the most awful sleep and start talking in my sleep. And that's how I learned about that. So,
And I'm sure it was like good memories, family bonding Saturday evenings, though, with popcorn.
okay, we do have another question here. It looks like you're asking if we can access this somewhere else later. We will have at the end of our presentations. So at the end of our October 23, we will have them available both on our Facebook and our YouTube channels. So those will be available later on. Are there notes? We can probably put together some notes so we can actually get those available to you. We'll be glad to email that to you. You're welcome to email us with your contact information, and we'll be happy to get some of those notes for you. That would be awesome, yes. Says, I think I heard you say that variety of fruits and vegetables was important. Is the same true for grains?
Yes, and I really meant to emphasize that too. So all plant-based food items, fruits, vegetables, all grains, even pseudo grains as well, and your legumes. So the more you have a variety in all of those, the better. And even herbs and spices will count as a plant-based food source in the 30 that I was talking about.
Awesome. Very awesome. Yeah, I've learned a lot about my own self now that I've increased my fruits and vegetables. I seem to have more energy in the day. And I know for me, especially eating lots of fruits and stuff, I've get sick way less often. So it definitely has been helping with my immune system, which is awesome.
Great. I love hearing that.
Says, my 10-year-old daughter wants to know how much exercise per day is good.
Let's see. For a 10-year-old, oh wow, I say at least 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. So 30 times 5 is 150. 150 minutes per week. So that would be really good to aim for that.
Excellent, excellent. Any other questions out there? All right, it looks like that might be all the questions for tonight. Thank you again, Gigi. Learned so much. Really appreciate you being here tonight. And once again, we'll see you all back tomorrow night. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, 60 minutes daily for kids.
Okay, yes. 60 for kids. I just got that from Dr. Medina. He just sent me a text.
All right, excellent, excellent. Thank you all again for being here. We'd love to see you again for tomorrow for our Groovin' Movin' Jumpstart, and that will be with Dr. Ernie Medina. So, oh no, wait, or is it with?
His is on Sunday.
Sunday. I'm sorry, I take that back. That is actually with Dr. Let me look it up real quick. I should know this. Dr. How about with, here we go. It is with Dr. Ron Dupre. Dr. Ron Dupre tomorrow with Groovin' Movin' Jumpstart. So thank you so much all for being here. Kathy, it looks like Kathy has another question. How important is consistency in sleep times?
Wow, that's a really good question. I know that life happens and it's not always doable, especially if you're a student, etc. As best as you can. I was reading a study that said that even one night of getting little sleep or less than 7 hours, 6 and less, can already make a difference in our perceptions, in our outlook, in our reaction time, things like that, in our cognitive process. So just as long as it's not all the time, but if you can do it as consistent as you possibly can, that's what I would recommend. But don't shoot yourself, because we can't aim for perfection, because with life and everything that happens, yeah, sometimes we just can't help it and we do sleep less. So let's, be gentle and kind to ourselves during those times that we're not able to get enough sleep.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I actually was a flight attendant for 14 years. And so your sleep changes a lot, because sometimes you're morning, sometimes you're evening. And so you do the best you can, but it doesn't always happen. But let's see if there's any other questions for us before we sign off tonight. See, any other questions here? All right, doesn't look like we have any more coming in for tonight. Once again, you're welcome to email us at jsi.iyhp@gmail.com. Once again, that's jsi.iyhp@gmail.com. Thanks, God bless, and good night.